Date 27th June 2024. Time is this. In the last session, we have talked about reducers. We have implemented this code of reducers. So let me run the project. See the terminal. CD desktop, CD FullStack, CD day 103, CD React reducers, NVM use 18, and npm run dev localhost 5173, localhost 5173. So here we have implemented the same thing that we have that same thing is over here. Reducers, extracting state logic into the reducer. So here we have seen something called as use. Here we have seen something called as use reducer. Can you see? Use reducer. What's that? Use reducer. So if you have the components with many state updates spread across many event handlers, can get overwhelming. For these cases, you can consolidate all state logic outside your component in a single function called reducer. So this is the code that we have written. Lot of state updates you will see here, right? Lot of state updates. Many things are happening inside this. So how do you handle this? How many times you are going to change the state? In such scenarios, instead of handling the state with the use state, we need to use something called as reducers. And what reducer says, instead of doing, can you see here, all these handle task old, handle delete task old, all these are related to the normal state update. And these things, handle task, handle change task, handle delete task, these are using the reducer functionality. What is the reducer functionality? What is the reducer functionality? Instead of the changing state, you will dispatch the actions, whatever parameter you pass to this dispatch function. So from where you are getting the dispatch function? Here, use reducer, you need to provide, here is the use reducer. Here you need to provide the task reducer and the initial values of these tasks. This variable can be any name, this variable can be any name. But the way use state returns the tasks and the function to change the task, use reducer returns you the tasks, that is the state object, and the dispatch function. Dispatch is dispatching the actions. Now if you go to the task reducer, if you see the task reducer, this is the task reducer, and the reducer will get the state and the action. So if you see here, the reducer function move the setting state from the dispatching actions. Instead of you do the set state, you do the dispatch actions. Actions is nothing but an object. Write the reducer function. So reducer function, where you will put the state logic. It takes the two arguments, current state and the action object. Current state and the action object. It takes the reducer function, it's a function. it takes two parameters, current state and the action. And the next thing, it returns the next state. It returns what? It is going to return the next state. So here look at the reducer function task reducer, tasks and the actions. So here a type of the action, added, changed, deleted. So these values we are passing from here, added, changed, deleted. The object you pass to the dispatch function is the action object. The object you pass to the dispatch function is the action object. This is the action object. So when you dispatch the action, the reducer function gets called, and here we get the action dot type. We write the action dot type, case added, then do this thing, right? Here we are returning the tasks. So here if you can say the spread operator, which means that the existing tasks are copied over here, spreaded. Whatever existing tasks are there, all the task object you will find over here, and the new id, action id, text, action dot text, and done, false, that this task is false. If you see here, action, text we are passing. If it is an add, we are passing the next id and the text. So text is nothing but whatever text needs to be added, that text. And there is an add task, this thing, add task. So this has nothing to do with the reducer. It is for this input box. So this is for this input box, controlled thing. And here you can say on add task. So on click, first we are going to set the text to the empty, and on add task. So this on add task is a prop we are passing. On add task is a prop we are passing. Can you see? On add task is getting this function, handle add task. So here in the add task, this on add task is nothing but this handle task. That's what we have passed over here. In short, if you have lot of state to manage, do not do it by using use state. If you have a lot of state to manage, do not manage it by means of use state, but use the reducer. Okay, so this is about what you can say reducer. Now this reducer is having a problem. Passing down these functions, this function passing down to the add task via prop, right? Task list passing down via prop is really bad idea. It is going to affect the memory. Doing this job, passing down this function to the prop, is a bad idea, right? Is what? Bad idea. You shouldn't do this thing. And that's why a next concept comes into the picture. That is nothing but passing data deeply with the context API, right? The problem with the props, that's what we discussed. So passing down the data, so you need to lift up the state, and the prop drilling, which means that this is the state over here, and you need to pass this state over here. You need to pass it via props in this manner. If the hierarchy is getting raised and raised, lifting the state up might be a problematic job. Passing the data deeply with the context. These things are also called as the contextual API. Let's create the project first. Can you tell me command for creating project? Day 103.
Yes, sir.
New folder day 104. CD day 104. Now Tell me the command npm
npm create
hmm,
with at the rate
bit at the rate latest. So here context API, React, JavaScript, context API, npm install. Okay, npm run dev. This is the React project we have got 104 source app.css. Even itself file is, we are understanding the concept. We don't need CSS right now. Otherwise, we could have used Tailwind also, right?
yes sir.
Not a big deal. Using a Tailwind is not a big deal. Remove all these things. So it's empty. There is nothing in this project right now. Now, context API. Usually, you pass the information from the parent component to a child component via prop. But passing the props can become verbose, and verbose means in detail, can become verbose and inconvenient. If you have to pass them through many components in the middle, or if many components in your app need the same information. So if you have a lot of components, then passing data via props is challenging. Context lets the parent component to make some information available to any component in the tree below it, no matter how deep it, without passing it through props. Context lets the parent component make some information available to any component in the tree below it, no matter how deep, without passing it explicitly through props. I want the mechanism where I can pass the components, I can pass the state to any of the component in the tree without using props. So I don't want to do the prop drilling. Here we can say prop drilling. Passing props is a great way to explicitly pipe the data through the UI tree to the components that uses it. But passing props can become a verbose and inconvenient when you need to pass some prop deeply through the tree. This is the component. So if this is the component tree and you want to pass the data over here via prop, it would be little challenging, right? The nearest common ancestor could be removed from the components that needs the data, and lifting that state can lead to the situation called as prop drilling. So you have a state over here. By lifting the state up, you have reached to this point. And from here, if you want to pass the data, that is little bit difficult, right? Hello?
Yes sir.
Now, what what things we need to do? What things you need to do? Now, if you see here, this is the data. Now, just a minute. context passes through the intermediate components. We'll see that. Just a minute. Let me write the code first. Yeah. So create the context first. Section.js, heading.js. Look at the architecture. Can you see heading component is there? Section component is there. Inside section there is a heading. Again inside section there is a heading. Again inside that section there is a one more section. Correct? Lot of sections and other things are happening. So here what we can do. So I have a new file. So we can say car component.jsx. So we have export function car. We have car component. Then we have export function. We have body. Then we have this return this. Return this. Then we have body, then engine, engine component, seat, then light. Okay, so inside car there is an engine component. Inside engine there is a body, seat, inside seat there is a, can you see the hierarchy? Engine component is there. Inside engine inside engine component there is nothing, but inside car there is a body. Inside body there is a seat. Inside seat there is a light. And now if you imagine, here I'm using car. Export function car. Just close all the things. Import car from .car. So we have this component over here. And now I want to pass a data to this light component. So here I have a state const st set st is use state. How do you pass this st? How do you pass this st to the light component? Look at the hierarchy. Car is having engine and body. Engine is having nothing. So here we can write h1 engine. And here we can say h1 body, seats, light, light. Now I want to pass some data to this light. So what you need to do, you need to pass it over here. You need to pass it over here. We can say is on for the light engine, or is light on, is ignited, right? Body color, like this. Now you need to pass this to every single thing. So if engine, if requires is ignited, so you need to pass it via here. Then body we have, and here we can say prop color, and seat is light on, right? Sorry, seat is light on, and here also is light on. So you need to pass it via prop. So here is ignited is equals to is ignited. You need to do to the body, we need what color? Oh, sorry, color, and is light on. To the body, is light on, true. Color, dark. Can you see? You need to go on passing the props in this way. It is not that convenient. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And then here you will not imagine which prop is for what. If you see this code after a year, right, you cannot imagine which code is for what exactly. And here we can say color. In this way we would be using engine is ignited, right, is light on, true. Sorry, here we can pass is light on, and color, here we can pass the color. And all these things are coming from here. So here we can say is ignited, st dot is ignited. This is the state variable. Then here you can say is light on, st dot is light on. Can you see? And color is equals to st dot color. So here we can have initial state is ignited, false, is light on, true, and color, dark. So here you are creating the state, and that state you are passing it to the car, and from car you are passing it to required component. This thing is called as prop drilling. And this is a bad. Presently you have fewer components, 5-6 components you have only. Imagine the code if you have hundreds of components in a real project, or in our application. In our application we have many components, right? Our billing counter management,
Yes, sir.
we have many projects, sorry, we have many things. In that case, how exactly you would be doing that part? Correct? So for that, what you would be needing, you need to have something called as context API. What is that?
Context API.
Context APIs. The section, what they are having, section and the children. You need to have something called as context API. So how do you do that thing? Let's create same hierarchy, car, car, new dot JSX, and I will create complete hierarchy in a car new JSX. But let's delete all these things. Just remove it and keep it as earlier. Is ignited. Okay. Right? Now in app.jsx, we can have something called as, in the src, new file, car context.js, car context.js. Now export const car context, C should be capital, car context is equals to
So there is in file name JS or JSX.
JS. It's a JavaScript file. Create context. The default value should be same as this. This should be the default value. JSX is only for that Java files which contains the JSX file. Do you think anything, do you find any JSX over here? No,
Yes.
right? There is no JSX over here. Now, see here. So you created the context. Then what? Use the context. So use context we need to have. So here if you see, in the heading component, const level, use context level. Okay, const level is equals to use context level. So heading level 4, like that. So if you see, title is there, heading is there, subheading is there. So in the app.js, this section level 3, 4s are there, providing the context. Wrap them with the context provider. Section component currently renders the children. Okay, now wrap them with the provider. Wrap them with the provider. So using the providing context to the same thing. So here, this is the section, and section, if you see, the section contains everything. The section is containing, in their case, everything. So they are wrapping all the children of the section so here body. Okay, in our case little bit different, because our components are not having anything. So here, so we have car context, we have something called as car new, engine new, body new, seat. I will not touch earlier one. I'll keep that earlier components as it is, seat new. So I'll keep the earlier code as well. Let's not worry about that. Now here, we need to import the car context import car context from the car context, and here we will create car context dot provider, car context dot provider, and value here we can pass is the initial value we can have, is the initial value, so we can say const init. So initial value can be outside, or let's skip this guy, and inside this we can say car new. Can you see car context provider dot car new? Engine is not defined, so let's comment out this guy. Let's comment out all these things. Now engine is not defined. Seat new, light new, engine new, body new. Okay, you can see the value prop written by the value prop required. So here we can say where you provide value is just a minute. So we created the context. If you see the create context, create context, default value any. So here also, if you have any value, you can pass it like this. So reformat the code. Yes. Now if you see, there are no errors. Now you have passed this value. You have passed this value. But how do you access it in the subcomponents like car new? I want to access it in a car new. So here you can say const use context is the method. What is that? Use context. And here, this is the car context. And we have ctx is equals to use context. And here we can pass the car context. And here we can say ctx dot. Here we can make, here we can say is ignited, or body. Here we need body color. So here simply we can pass color. And can you see body color dark? So you created a context like this. You provided the context like this. And here you have some details. Then seat new, here also you can use. Here also you can use is light on. Here we can say is light on. Engine is ignited. So here we can say is ignited. Correct. And here same thing we would be needing is light on, is light on. So true and false cannot be printed. If it is a false, that cannot be printed. So here we can say if it is on, we can say on or off. Off. Same on off. Here also on off, engine off, like that. But see, nowhere you will find the state. There is no prop drilling the way we have done in the car. You need to pass the data to each and every component. Here you don't need to do that thing by means of the context API, right? So here we have created the thing. Now, how do you change the values? So if there is any button, how do you change the values? I wanna change the values. So how to do that? So when you say you want to change the value, here you need to create this is the object, or here we can say this is the object. Inside that we can say state. This is the state, and we can have a function also, set state. This is the arrow function, set state. State, here you can say, right, st. So we have, okay, just a minute. This is the car new. So if there is a button over here and we wanna change it, how to do that? So here, let's enable this st, set st, and to the value, state and set state is the function empty. Let's keep this right now empty. And in the context now, here in the context, instead of passing these things like this, state, this st, set st. st and what? Set st. So here you will not get the thing now, for the reason this thing have been changed. So in this you will get st and set st. And here you can say st dot color. Here also st and sorry, st and set st, st and set st, st and set st, set st. So here if you want to change anywhere, you just call the set st function. So here you can say st dot light on, because inside st there is a, if you see here we have changed this object. So in the earlier cases, is ignited, is light on, color were directly available over here inside these two brackets, but we have modified it because we need to change it from the inner components. So here we created the state, and that state, this state we have passed as the initial value for the context provider. Can you see this st is nothing but this st, this set st is nothing but this set st, and what is this st and st is nothing but the state. So here we created the state in the top level component and passed it down. So car now st dot light on, st dot. Can you see now everywhere working? All the errors are gone. And if there is a button, and if you want to change the state, consider that there is an input button, input type button, value okay, and on, click. Here you can say handle, click is nothing but this function, and here I can say handle click, and here you can say set st, we need to pass the object, just copy the existing st, all the values in the existing st, and just is ignited, make it true. So presently off, if you can see this is becoming true, or just say toggle it, st dot is ignited, and just toggle it, toggle the value. If it is on, make off, see off, on, off, on. So you are changing the state, you are changing the state from inside. How you have done that? Context APIs, right? See now, context lets you to write the components that adapt their surroundings and display themselves differently depending on where they are being rendered. Before you use a context is very tempting to use. However, This also means it's too easy to overuse. Just because you need to pass some props several level deep doesn't mean that you should put them in a context, right? Here are some alter see, it is not like that you should use the context at every single place. If your UI tree is nested at the deeper levels and it is going difficult for you to the and it is difficult for you to maintain that state deep down in your UI tree, then and only then it is recommended practice to go with the context. Otherwise you can use the prop drilling, right, or the reducers. Normal state management. Start by passing props. If your components are not trivial, it is not usual to pass dozens of the prop down through the dozens of the components. It may feel like a slog, but it makes it very clear which components uses which data. The person maintaining your code will be glad you have made data flow explicit with the props. That's what they are saying. If possible, go with the props, right? Extract the components and pass the JSX as children to them. If you pass some data through the many layers of the intermediate components that doesn't use that data, this often means that you forgot to extract some components along the way. For example, maybe you pass a data props like post to the visual components that doesn't use them directly, right? Which means that what they are saying, go here in a car. So technically is light on is not required. Is light on is not required inside this body component, but you have passed it as a prop only because of this seat component. Is light on nowhere used in the body, the JSX of the body, but is light on is passed as a prop only because of this seat is a child of it. In such cases, there are many scenarios like this in your React component. Go ahead and use use context over there. Where not to use context and where to use the context. Use cases of the context: theming, current account, routing, and managing the state. If your app lets the user to change the appearance like dark mode, normal mode, you can put a context provider at the top of your app and use that context just to check the visual look. Current account, many of the components might need to know what user is logged in, so that user info you can put it in a context. Routing, most of the routing solutions use internally context. We are going to see the context. Routing, they use internally context. This is how every link know whether it is active or not. Managing the state, as your app grows, you might end up with a lot of state closer to the top of your app. Many distant components below may want to change it. It's common to use the reducer together with the context. Tomorrow's topic, this one, using the reducer and the context together, right? That's what they are saying over here in the last part. Well, we have talked about a lot on the topic of the context. Please revise it.
Yes, sir.
React context API. Thank you. Let's meet tomorrow. We are approaching towards the end of the React. We are
Yes, sir.
approaching towards the end of the React. Remaining topics are form handling, then routing, and consuming the REST APIs. Form handling, routing, consuming the REST APIs, and then project will begin. That would be the end of the React.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and whatever remaining, I will just check today. Few things are remaining, like use effect and other things are remaining. That will also, these things with the refs. So this escape hatches, this is also remaining. We'll see this part also, and then React will end. But once we complete the context API state management, almost React have been completed. Okay, fine.
Yes, sir.
Let's call it for a day. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.